Hi, it's Kristen Smedley with another installment edition of Learning to See, Set Extraordinary Expectations. So this story should give you a little more insight into what I'm talking about with extraordinary expectations. I mean, I'm not just talking about surviving the day, right? I'm talking about, and not just high expectations, extraordinary, where you take the normal and you go past it, or you, in this case, you go about something normal in an extraordinary way as opposed to just getting through it. So what does all this mean? Well, I want to talk about the day that we went kite flying. Okay, I've got 3 kids, 2 of them can barely see anything, right? So never even considered to do kite flying, because to me that is such a visual thing, right? So anyway, long story short, a couple of summers ago, every summer my parents get this great house down the Jersey Shore in Sea Isle City, my favorite town on the Jersey Shore. And it's like the loaves and the fishes. I have no idea how they end up fitting as many people as they do. And as the weeks lead up to getting to that house, if you were to do a spreadsheet on how many people say they're going and what days and nights they're going to be there, it would never fit with the amount of beds, pillows, all that kind of stuff. And we lose about 2,000 square feet of that house with all the snacks everybody brings. But that's a whole nother series that we can work on. But anyway, so the one summer that we were all there, my dad decided he was gonna have a kite night. Everybody plans like an activity or a dinner or something for all the grandkids that go and the cousins and all. So the one night my dad was doing kite flying. Now, I have to back up and say, I get my guys into as many regular activities as possible, and they blend in with all their cousins. I mean, so much so that one of their cousins argued with my sister-in-law a couple years ago whether the boys were really blind or not. That kind of happens all the time to us. But anyway, so the boys are pretty much in with all the stuff that the cousins do, maybe some adaptations here and there. But every now and again, and those of you that are raising kids, not just blind kids, but if your child has something a little different need than the other kids in your house or your family, you might know what I am about to say. So sometimes there are those moments, it's just that your gut tightens up and you just get that, I don't think my kid can do that, And then sometimes that's just a real quick moment and then you figure it out, and sometimes you can't figure it out, and it is what it is. This was one of those moments that I just was like, it just kind of hit me in the gut of, they're not going to enjoy this cousin activity tonight, flying kites on the beach. And we were doing it right at dusk, when most people were off the beach. And I thought, you know what? Let's just, for some reason things work out when all the cousins are together and maybe the boys can find something else to do. Let's just go for it, right? So we get down to the beach and lo and behold, my dad in his, super pop mode to get 12 kites, one for everybody. He went and got they were like the cheapest kites you could find. These plastic things, and it was hilarious because some of them were, it was like Frozen had come out, so there's Elsa, and then there's the superheroes for the boys and all that stuff. So he's looking at what is on the kite, and where he can get a bunch of them and not spend a royal fortune. What he didn't realize, and what I didn't realize and was pleasantly surprised, was those cheaper kites had this crazy plastic that they were made of. And when you have that crazy cheaper, frugal plastic, when the kite went up into the air, it rattled, like this really loud rattle that might drive other people crazy. But the boys, God love them, they get out there and they try everything. They wanted to know about putting the kite string on and how to do the whole thing and put it together, and they put their kites together, and then when their kites went up, they could hear the plastic rattling. They could hear their kite, they could hear everybody else's kites, and not only could they hear them, and they could feel the tension on the string, they could tell where the kites were in relation to each other, and if somebody had one coming closer, if one was coming in, if one was going higher, they could tell by the sound of that plastic. It was one of those moments where it ended up to be, I sat in awe, and smiled like a goofball the whole time, watching them being able to fully participate in a regular activity that they blend in so much, so we didn't even think, how can we adapt this? We just did it. And it worked beautifully. And the funniest part was, as all the cousins were getting bored or whatever, they were done, they wanted to go run around on the beach and play ball and everything, it was Michael and Mitchell that ended up taking each one of their kites for a few more minutes and then reeling it in and then getting the next one. And Mitch, I'll actually put a link to the blog I did about this, but Mitchell was the last man standing, if you want to call it that. He actually ended up almost falling asleep, sitting. He sat down with the one last kite that was up in the sky holding onto the string. He just didn't want that night to end. And the super cool part was when we got back into Bucks County, when we came home after that week, Mitch was in an acting camp, and the theater production they were putting on had "Let's Go Fly a Kite" as the song, and he was so excited because he got fully immersed in a kite experience and had the absolute most greatest time. So that's my story of setting extraordinary expectations. When you set an extraordinary expectation that you're going to go beyond the normal and figure things out and make it extraordinary, the ordinary things extraordinary, it opened your mind to getting in there and trying something that you may have, I may have initially said, no, they're not going to be able to do that, I'm going to go take them and do something else. But I don't go about things that way anymore. We try to see if they can get in there and do all the stuff that everybody else does as much as possible. Most times it works out tremendously. Sometimes it doesn't. But with the kites, it was one of the greatest moments we ever had. So thank you for tuning in to another Thriving Blind episode of Learning to See, Set Extraordinary Expectations. Can't wait for the next one.